And let's make your microphone active, maybe in a bit.
Yeah.
So, let's transition. So, hello everyone who's watching and have been waiting. We are streaming this to our Facebook group, the Boutique Retouching or High-End Retouching Facebook group. We will also do a recording to put it on YouTube. But what we will be doing today is to critique images that were submitted for critique, obviously. And I have a friend with me who is joining in doing the critique with me. So give me a second. So I'm switching to you now. So hello, Natalia.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's good.
It's good.
I don't know
Okay,
what else.
we're currently in the lockdown, but we will take some time for the people and critique some images. So we both have the same images. We will go through them in order. So we set ourselves a target to critique 10 images of the community. And yeah, so are you excited? I hope. I hope you are.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what was being submitted, and hopefully we can provide as much help as possible.
Yeah, that's the goal. I think we are qualified to do that. So
Yeah.
shall we go to the first image? So I will share my screen maybe, and
Yeah.
then I will start with the first image. And yeah, so give me a second to prepare this. I'm actually quite bad because I could have put both of us into this window. Give me a second. At Microsoft Teams.
Well, let's see what your Photoshop window as well, yeah? When you're critiquing.
You won't see it, but you have the same image open.
Oh, okay. But I want to see you critiquing. Okay.
So, give me a second. Okay, so now let's go to Photoshop and people see my screen. So let's go over this image. The image has been actually submitted by, who was it? Stefan YA and, okay, of Science Multimedia, obviously. So yeah, we will go through these critiques. If you have questions, if you are joining the Facebook Live, you can ask questions and we will try to respond to it as well. But our main focus will obviously be critiquing what people have submitted and we will critique their retouching. So this is a full resolution image, so we can zoom in quite a lot. And so maybe let's go through the first few things that I see. So when I look at the image, what is very noticeable is that some sort of filter has been applied to the skin. And let me grab a nice color. And around the hairline, we can see where it stops, where it's not been applied. So if you look at the hairline here, where this person has stopped cloning out the hair, so you can see the transition on this side, on the forehead, that the filter has been applied, and then we have all of a sudden an area where the original shows up. Then we have some smudges and also very repetitive patterns on the forehead. So that's something I definitely would recommend looking into, is not necessarily applying a filter technique. And also, if you have issues with curly hair and a lot of stray hairs, not just stop somewhere. So maybe leave some in and make the transitions more natural. The same goes for the eyebrows. Yeah, so, And what else could we say? There are some other areas that you basically missed retouching. So, for example, the clothing that woman is or girl is wearing would need some cleaning up. There's a lot of dust on it, and then on the chest area, the skin texture is more pronounced, obviously, than it is on the face. So I would retouch some of it away and some of the lines there. And what typically happens is when you apply a filter, then you usually commit to a range in terms of what you blur, in terms of a frequency band, and that cannot be applied the same all over the face. And that's also why the chest is not as blurry and still has a lot of rough texture showing up. So that's on my side what I would critique on it, and the first things that are the most obvious to me. So maybe you can now go through what you're seeing. Maybe you agree on some of the things. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so let me quickly show my Photoshop. Basically, I think pretty much the same things. That we can see the frequency separation or some sort of filter has been applied, and a lot of the texture is disconnected. We see really filtered on the forehead and around the hair. There's suddenly it starts and stops. There's a repetitive pattern. There's halo around the brows. So, and it's too sharp in other areas, which actually makes the texture stand out more and make it look worse. And another thing that I notice a lot of beginners do, they concentrate so heavily on the face and they forget about everything else. They forget, as you said, about clothing, they forget about the hair, they forget about body. So yeah,
Or they
body.
forget about the makeup.
Yes, exactly. Also, like, because I think it's been sharpened, or the radius was chosen not correctly for the separation, it actually brings the texture more out. Maybe certain things like necklines you wouldn't need to have to remove completely, just reduce it. But because of sharpening, it brings them out more. Another thing I can see in a lot of beginners is not careful cloning or healing, because I can see the source was chosen somewhere else around the shoulder area, maybe somewhere where the
That's
texture
what
is
I
more soft, as
showed.
we
And
see.
if you look at the forehead, on the right side of the forehead, you see a lot of repetitive texture there as well.
Yeah, exactly. And suddenly it's really blurry, and then suddenly because it goes back to sharp. So yeah, be very careful with how you clone, and constantly change your source point, literally every time. Don't get lazy. I know it's difficult at the first time, but eventually it will become second nature. And don't forget about hair. Especially with colored hair, you don't really have to remove everything. Just do things that stand out, like
some of
everything
the. I mean, if you have to, if you are removing stray hair that go over the forehead, you also have to remove the stray hair proportionally to what's considered going over the background, right?
Yeah, so I would really recommend spending some time and looking at what hairs to remove, what doesn't. Maybe there's a certain natural flow to the hair that you can keep, and that would be and just remove a little bit. It's a bit difficult to explain without seeing what was there before. Of course, if we had an example, we could.
Yeah, we don't.
But it's okay. Yeah, for the beginning, I would just say stay away from this frequency separation and start simple. Just get good with your heating brush and your clone stamp. And don't sharpen images at the beginning. Even remove the sharpening if you're opening in RAW, because that will add you more work to do on top that you don't need.
Yeah, that's something I also tell people a lot, is not to sharpen images. So many people, let me share my screen maybe again. So maybe let me, sorry.
I'll start sharing mine.
Yeah, sure. So for example, if we open the camera raw filter here, just a second.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
Yeah, just to show without going back to bridge and stuff. Oh, I opened it up on an empty layer. Okay, that doesn't work. Let's do it on the background. Filter, camera raw. Okay, so now you have, for example, it's now under calibration. No, effects. Where have they put it?
You try to open camera it's in filter, camera raw filter. Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah. Where's the
Yeah,
sharpening?
it's in the filter.
I haven't used it for a while.
They changed the camera raw, didn't they?
Yeah.
So it looks a bit different. Let me check quickly. It is now under detail.
Oh, yeah, obviously. So a lot of when you're processing raw, there are a lot of settings pre-applied, and for the sharpening, you usually have like a very low sharpening, which is basically also connected to a radius, and that is done, or initially has been done, if you're shooting with different lenses, then the profile would adjust for sharpness of different lenses. So you might use different lenses on a shoot and turn them around to the same sharpness level, because obviously lenses work differently and have different detail. So that's what it meant. What it is meant for is to even out differences in the camera lenses. And some people, they just crank this up like crazy and use this to sharpen the image, but you definitely shouldn't use it. So it's a good practice to, if you're provided with a set of images, to just maybe go with a very low value here, or just disable it completely. And then you have control over the sharpening in Photoshop and can apply it after all the retouching is done. So what you do then is to disable all the sharpening. Again, not necessarily, not necessarily you have to, but so if you have different images and you have to adjust it a little bit, definitely stick with a very small radius, like 0.7 to 1 pixel maybe at maximum, and reduce the detail slider a little bit, and then sharpening should be around like maybe up to 15, not more. Otherwise, it's as you said, it's very good practice to disable it, and then you can sharpen the image after all the retouching is done. So yeah. Oh, my camera
I do the same thing. I do the same thing. No matter if I'm in Lightroom, in a camera raw, or I'm in Capture One, I usually just remove all of it, and then I add it selectively later. I also don't always add globally sharpening, because there's certain areas that don't need it, and certain areas just need more sharpening. So I kind of selectively sharpen to make sure the image looks as unified as possible. But yeah, remove the sharpening as much as possible. It will make your retouching easier.
True.
For sure.
Give me a second. I have to close my camera app because it got stuck.
For me as well.
Pardon?
Yeah, you're frozen for me.
Yeah, it's coming back. Give me a second. I hope it's coming back. Maybe we can go to the second image, and I will reset my camera.
Yeah.
So.
You're back.
Yeah, I know. So let's go to the second image. and have you start. So
Lisa, okay.
the second image has been provided by well, that's going to be hard to pronounce. Ulises Hashen. I'm probably going to butcher the name, but let's go with it.
Okay, I'm looking at it as well. I'm just quickly having a look for it. Okay. So again, I'm not sure about the skin. I still think it has something on it. There's like I can see the texture, especially when you zoom in, but I don't know. I have a feeling there's separation in this one as well.
Yeah.
Something is not everywhere though. I can see it's been selectively done. I feel there is somewhere. So again, if you can stay away from separation, try to get really good with your not normal techniques, but old-fashioned tools, cloning, healing, and nudge and burning. Because separation can be useful in different instances, but if you're good with the first set of tools, then you're pretty much golden. A couple of things I notice in makeup, I would make the eyeliner a bit more sharper. I would unify so it's the same throughout because it looks dry and it bleeds into lashes. And you can see it's not purposeful because it doesn't bleed in here. I would fill the eyebrows as well because the image is such a strong close-up.
Yeah.
You need to take
something
those little things.
That's also overlooked a lot. So people obviously apply retouching to the skin, but then they forget about what maybe a makeup company or who is, I don't know, another person that is part of the team, like the makeup artist, will look for. And that could be the eyebrows. Maybe you can show where you would fill in some hair and...
Yeah, for sure. Before we do that, a couple of things.
Sure.
The texture is smooth in here, but then we have some old texture peak in here. So disconnected, it's really, really smooth, and suddenly it's quite patchy in here. Same goes in the nose. It's been made smooth, but then there's a couple of things in here. And here's the nose that I mean. The brush is so laggy. Also, the lips are worrying me because there's no texture in here. It's super smooth.
Right.
And then we have texture in here. So I would, if she has such a strong texture in the lips, I would rather reduce the texture that she had in here. So, and reduce this one, but keep it rather than completely remove it. So it just doesn't look so strong. Looks like there's work done in the shadows.
Well, I can, for example, if you go to the lips again, maybe just move the image there. So a lot of people, I find it is the more texture is bending, the harder it is to correct because you don't have a lot to sample from. And then what happens is on the left side, you see that person probably has started healing and cloning on the lip. And on the right side, he or she noticed that it's becoming increasingly harder to make it look real and then didn't continue retouching it. So we have on the left side a very smooth lip without any texture. And on the right side, we have the original texture, which is a little bit dry and it doesn't really match anything that's going on the left side.
Yeah, I also notice a lot of time people get a little bit lazy. Well, we all do at the beginning, I think, and they use too big of a brush as well to clone. And sometimes you just need to get so much closer and zoom in and take out or reduce those little wrinkles one by one and not get lazy and just try to do with a big brush, because then you need to have a larger area to source. Also, I think the image would benefit with a little bit liquefying to give a bit more shape to the lips, and so it flows better. I also think the background is distracting. It pulls me, it's so bright, it pulls me away from makeup. It's really, I look at the background first, and then I look at the eyeliner.
Yeah.
And then I look here because this is dark and the saturation falls.
Yeah,
So
I think it would be much
definitely,
better to go with a tone like this, I don't know what it is, mint blue something, like the cyan color that is on the darker side, like it is on the very far right
yeah,
of the image in the makeup.
yeah. It just basically needs toning down in luminosity and saturation, so it's just not so overpowering, because first it's the biggest area of that color, so my eye is drawn in here. It's the brightest one as well, so I straight away go to there. And about the hairs on the here, again, it's just, I think this area in here needs to, just so the
Yeah.
brow has a bit more structure. Up now, you can, whatever you have to add, please.
So I mean, it's basically the same thing. Is maybe I'm showing my screen again to the
Yeah.
To the people. So for example, on the to go over it again, let's add an empty layer. So for example, the eyeliner, as you said, is very inconsistent. So on around the edges, there are differences in tonality. So there are some spots that are darker and rougher in terms of texture, also at the edge. And that has to be evened out. So you have to figure out a way how to get rid of these small lines and also add more color to make it more of the main color of the eyeliner. And then obviously on the right side, you could still think about brightening up the makeup. So it's falling into shadow and it's losing a lot of the color. So I would even that out a little bit. Then again, I would fill in a lot of hairs in the eyebrows, and be more consistent in terms of the line and the shape the eyebrow has. For example, the lower part can be improved a little bit. You just have to find the right. Oh, my drawing is a mess. You have to find the right matching angles, and then you would remove the hairs on the top and fill in some of the hairs here and get rid of all of that at the bottom. And yeah, then as you also pointed out, around the nose we have a lot of texture that is left over and some blotching, like a lack of, I would consider it a lack of texture, which also happens sometimes when people start healing and cloning and they get rid of all the texture. So you have larger spots that pretty much have no skin pores anymore, and that looks weird too. Yeah, and I want to maybe show something else in terms of if you go into a black and white view and look at the lips and add some contrast to it, then you will see that there is not a lot of dodging and burning or evening out of the tones. So you have it done all over the skin, probably with a filter, but the lips still could get some dodging and burning done to even out the transitions and the texture that is a little bit larger than the fine lines on the lips. So yeah, that would make a lot of difference. And then what you would do is, for example, getting rid of the big cracks on the lip, and just, or at least try to tone it down to a way that it looks natural. And then you can start dodging and burning the other areas. For example, if you have gotten rid of the big lines that go from top to bottom, you can, for example, dodge these areas in the middle. So you remove the big bumps and cracks gradually and control it, and then also along here. And it's good practice if you have lines going through the lips, then it's good to not necessarily remove the cracks in terms of dodging it away, but take the, for example, if I was to clone this or heal this, I would look for the lines going horizontally, basically, and try to continue these and remove the cracks, and then you have what looks like natural texture without the interruption of vertical lines crossing the horizontal lines. And that you would do by picking up the texture on the left or right side of what you want to get rid of, and then you transition it over, and that's how you then would end up making it look real. So something like this. And then obviously you have to manage how thick these lines are and dodge a little bit so it doesn't look too pronounced. But in terms of the before after, it's much easier. It looks much more natural to have, again, horizontal, more or less horizontal line throughout the lips instead of these vertical cracks that look like dry skin. Okay, so yeah, that's been pretty much what I would suggest for this image.
If I have two more things,
Yeah.
I would look into the under eye area. I would minimize the wrinkles; they're a bit too strong, and then distracting away from the makeup, and as well the skin texture. Underneath there's eye creases, and I also
So
feel
you're talking
the reason.
about, I'm just marking it up for people to see it.
Yeah.
So you're talking
so, but I trust you.
These
I'm
lines.
talking about the eye creases and as well as the texture just right under where the eye bag is.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very heavy. And then in terms of where it meets the eyeliner on the top, you have a lot of smaller, harsh texture that you could get rid of and even out, like especially this area. And yeah, so it's not necessarily like these this main big fold that you would get rid of, but the smaller ones in between.
Yeah. The big one I would reduce and color correct because it's different. It has a lot much cooler.
Can take away these small lines, like the two bottom ones and on the top one, and still have the natural fold that the eye always has. And yeah.
Also, if you look at the image from far away, if you zoom out in Photoshop, the filtering, what it has done is it kind of has taken away her natural face shape and bone structure. It's kind of feels a bit more muddled together. That's another reason why applying freeze suppression so heavily on their face, it's not good. And because recuperation tends to, if you kind of don't write and people feel confident about it. It looks great when you zoom in, but as soon as you zoom out,
they start flattening out everything, because it's really hard to paint a gradation that is already in the image, and you have to keep the gradation. So it happened a lot on the chin, on the area that transitions over here. That has become very flat. around the mouth, and then also on the eyelid, you can see that it's basically a flat spot.
Yeah.
Like this bright spot here is, in terms of the gradation, is very flat, and then it goes into a gradation that is much harsher, so it appears like, yeah, flatter than it should be.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to image number 3, which has been sent in by Taibo Ogunlesi, if I pronounce. It's very hard to pronounce these names, but we just roll with it. So if I open it up, there is a lot of skin blur going on, and a filter that has been applied all over the image. And on top of
that's why you
that,
have that glow.
it has been sharpened. So all we have left are the little details of the skin, and then especially when you look at the eyes, it's much over sharpened. So you have a lot of sharpening going on, and then all of a sudden it stops. And that makes the texture look very pronounced in some areas, and in others it's not existent anymore. And yeah, you also get, by over sharpening, you get these artifacts, which we can see all around edges of high contrast. You see it everywhere where the hand is, all around the hand, all around the fingers. We have this. Then we have, what else? We have still a lot of cracks in the lipstick, which this person didn't bother to retouch. And overall, it seems like basically just filtering. I can hardly see any healing and cloning that has been done. Yeah, and maybe painting over the background. I don't know what exactly has been done, but especially like what happens if you look at their chest, and everywhere you have these big blotches. You still can see some of the lines, but then they are like super disconnected from the, yeah, I don't want to be too harsh, but it looks like, I don't know, lines floating over some random colors. There's not much shape left. Yeah, so that's what I mean. I don't want to be harsh, but we said we include pretty much all the images, no matter how good or bad they are. Because we said everyone is starting somewhere. They might have learned some techniques like frequency separation, or how to apply inverted high pass or whatnot. And yeah, so we're pointing out what needs to be done. Also, definitely cleaning up the teeth, cleaning up the, yeah, pretty much everything. I mean, this person, I would suggest like learning how to heal and clone, and stay away from the other techniques that were applied.
Yeah, I'm gonna share my
My
screen
screen
again,
again,
just to
just
go
to
through
go through
it.
it.
Basically,
Basically,
pretty much the same what
what
Daniel
Daniel.
has said. Again, we don't want to be harsh, but it's okay. Everyone starts somewhere, and everyone goes a bit overboard. I guess we all get so excited with how much potentially we can do in Photoshop. It's all really new, so we kind of tend to push it to the maximum, which is fine. Again, you need to make mistakes. We have a lot of really bad images as well that we've done, but it's fine as long as you keep working on it. But yeah, I would scale it back. It feels like the person rushed through it. It feels like the filter was applied all over the skin. It feels, whereas with beauty images, you want to take a little bit more time and attention and care. I would again scrap any filtering techniques and go back with healing, clone stamp tool, and dodge and burning, because everything that you have mentioned, this halo, is too sharp, which makes the skin look worse. A lot of stuff has not been fixed, like the nails, the eyes, because they're over sharpened. we can see the veins in the eyes are more pronounced, which makes you look more tired. Same goes, there's lipstick splodging on the teeth, and there's cracking. There's just a lot of little things that needs to be done. And also the color grading on top of that. She looks really green to me, like really cyan. I would spend some time looking at some good images and to see what skin tone actually looks like, and not go really heavy in beauty images. Beauty images don't really need any funky color grading, especially whoever did this image seems to be focusing on skincare because they have that little silicone sponge. So less crazy color grading, more focusing on the skin and just a cleanup. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much all we can say about this image. So maybe let's jump to the next one.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time.
Image
So,
number 4. Pardon?
Okay, then
Yeah,
don't
image
have
number
enough
4.
time.
Yeah, I mean, we're spending. We're already 30 minutes in, so let's go to the next image. Image number 4 has been by Paul Ellis.
Okay.
So, do you want to start or should I?
Up to you.
Okay, then let me start.
Okay.
So first of all, I like the tone in the background, that it is a little bit bluish, purplish. I think that matches pretty well with the makeup. But then I think the image is a little bit too cool and too magenta in terms of the skin color. So for example, if we go to selective color and choose the yellows, I would definitely reduce the magenta in there. That would be a nice fix to correct the skin tone and just do a before after. Obviously that's a little bit too much in terms of the hair. Give me a second, I have to adjust that a little bit. So you have to take care of, maybe in the yellows, you will see when I reduce the magenta that the hair is going quite yellow, so you have to balance that a little bit and maybe mask it out from the hair. But in terms of the skin, it makes a lot of difference to also shift the reds and the yellows a little bit. And then, yeah, you would go into the mask and reduce. I mean, I'm sloppily doing this now, but reduce it on the hair slightly. I'm just painting it out completely now, but yeah, so that's what I would do. And then you still have to balance the skin consistency in terms of the color. So the face is a little bit more yellow than the neck and shoulder area. So there you would have to correct it a little bit more. Then in terms of the retouching, I think the lip line is a little bit sharp and inconsistent in terms of color. So if we go to, I can't stick with purple. So, okay, now we have purple lipstick or pink lipstick. So for example, the edges are a little bit inconsistent, and then you have some texture that is missing around here, and we have on the left side of the lip we have some reflections and also going to shadows, so you have to manage that, taking care of do some dodging and burning to even that out, and then apply for example, here we have an area that has more saturation, so you have to really manage the color on the lip and make it look natural and not put too much saturation into the shadows, because then it looks like a like in a comic, how you would apply, or in a how's it called? Like in an artwork thing. Yeah. So generally, you would take away some saturation in the shadow areas on the left side. Other things, I can see some leftovers of the hair retouching. So sometimes there are need to be some more stray hairs to make it more believable, and then we have some areas where it's more soft in terms of the edge compared to the area next to it. We have some stray hair still going up. So yeah, that's it. And also, if you start cleaning up the hair, I can see some of the leftovers here, and it's very easy to maybe get rid of the very pronounced small bright hairs that are still attracting the viewer's attention. Then what else? Around the eye, there's some color inconsistencies. So around the eyebrow, there's a lot of magenta, which is partially from the makeup they applied, partially it is due to like oversaturation. And then there are areas of very low saturation. So around the inner part of the eye, there is a huge spot that is almost grayish looking. And on the outside of the eye, we have the same. And then underneath her ear, along the cheek, we have a few spots that almost look gray as well. So I would put some color in there. And yeah, so that's pretty much what I would say. In terms of the skin retouching, it's a lot better than the other images we have seen. So there's a lot of still very fine texture. But I think if you're like doing it for portraits, or if your client is demanding it, that's still okay. Yeah, I mean, it depends. So, but it's, yeah, I can't see a lot of healing and cloning issues. Yeah, on the forehead, we still have some texture. Obviously, the eyebrows, you have to fill in some of the hairs and make the shape a little bit more pronounced and believable. So you have to fill this gap. That is very obvious. And then how the eyebrow ends is a little bit broad and should be, yeah, refined slightly. So that's what I would say in terms of that image.
Okay, let me switch to me now. A lot of the things that you said is what I wanted to bring up, especially the hairs. I notice very frequently when people remove their hairs, they start removing the hairs in the outline, and then they
But
don't
not
remove the
on,
hair
yeah.
completely. And I keep seeing that happening a lot of the time, and also when cleaning around the edge, not matching whatever the mask or the brush, wherever
Yeah,
you do,
right.
whichever way
Exactly
you go.
where you are, that there the transition looks very broad and diffuse, and other areas it's looking much more sharp.
Yeah, need to pay attention or the depth of field and how it falls off
Yeah.
naturally in the image to make it look a bit more believable. You pretty much covered all the points that I wanted to, so I'm not gonna try to mention them so much. Did you mention this? I couldn't see what you were doing. The healing or cloning problems with the hair. I can see
Oh,
it's quite
yeah.
smudgy in
This
here.
one I didn't. This one I didn't. But I saw it in other areas of the hair,
Okay,
and then you
perfect.
have a lot of small, bright hairs, like
Yeah.
more on the top of the head, that I would get rid of
Okay.
still.
Yeah, definitely. Again, I'm really not sure. I'm not that good at it, but the shadows are throwing me off because there's grain
Yeah.
in it, and I don't know if it's filtered, but I have a feeling maybe like this area is throwing off.
Yeah.
That there could be frequency separation used because it's looking unusually smooth
Yeah.
and flat.
But it could be a result of also, like, if she had a lot of fluffy hair and you try to get rid of it and do a lot of, pretty much, if there is not a lot of texture to take away with it, you will also end up with something similar to this.
For sure, for sure. Quickly mention, I think you mentioned this needs to be selective color correction. In areas like I see the eyebrows are very magenta, and then there's lack of color. Eyebrows are obviously magenta. There's some spots in her skin where it's desaturated and definitely needs some masking and
yeah, especially under the lip.
masking.
I did not mark it up under the lip, but you have this very gray area, and right next to it there's a spot that is very magenta and has a lot of saturation.
Yeah. Another things to mention, the ones because you pretty much pointed a lot of stuff out. If you zoom out, look at your image from kind of like a thumbnail size, because you're not gonna concentrate on details of the image, and you want to look at the image overall. And what I can see if I zoom out, her face is really, really bright. Her body is dark. I would even it out. I either bring the body exposure up or the face exposure down. Also, I think she needs a little bit of liquify work just to balance up the picture, not to remove something from her, to make something smaller, something bigger, just to balance the image out, because that could be due to the lens that was used. But her front of her head, this part looks really, really large. So it
it's
throws
part
this
of
part of
how
the
the hair
face off.
falls, I guess.
Yeah, but I think it's yeah, I guess it could be. It's just I would reduce that part.
Yeah.
Or so it looks more in proportion with the rest of the body, because otherwise the head looks really, really big, and she may not look like that in real life, and
yeah,
it just throws the image a bit off.
Maybe let me share my screen with you. That's probably making it easier for you to see what I'm doing. So what I think is, give me a second. So what I think in terms of the hair, what it is there's a mid split part of the, give me a second, of the hair, and this part is going, wait, I have to choose the right layer. This part is going up and this part is going down. So it's covering a lot of this area here. And what you said is like to liquefy this down a little bit and maybe this up a little bit to even out.
Not only that, the top of the head as well, just push it.
Yeah,
so
because
this side.
also this whole section there looks smaller then. So you have to push the whole area here up and make this smaller and push this a little bit down to even this out. So that's, yeah.
I feel like liquify gets overlooked, but it's such a powerful tool that can just unify the whole picture and make your eyes flow through. Because when the image, I feel like when it's pleasant and you like it, your eyes just dot around the image and it kind of flows and nothing sticks out. So in here, you look at her face, you start looking at her body, and then her head suddenly sticks out, and then it's like, so if we move that a little bit, make it more in proportion, it will flow properly. Same with the lips, so it's not one cupid will is like
the same
high, and the other one is lower.
This area is going up a little bit and this is more flat. So there's definitely, you can push this up a little bit, make it more even, but then also towards the edges. And yeah, and also what I found is there's a lot of saturation in this area where it's actually where it should get dark, but it doesn't. That's probably been color painted over the lip because the saturation is very very much even, but then there are dark spots here and a bright spot there where it's, where it still has been from the original, I guess. And yeah, that's something to be careful of. Overall, like the saturation layers, because we have some gray here, some gray area here. Then on the, what we mentioned before, you have this gray area that is here, and right next to it, like this area has a lot of saturation then all of a sudden. Yeah, that's something to look for, definitely. Okay, should we go to the next image?
Yeah.
Image number 5 has been from Ryutsaki. Okay. So, do you want to go first then this time?
Just because I haven't even opened it yet. Sure. Okay. Let me just share my screen. Oh, so let me quickly have a peek at this image. Okay. Again, we have the same problem with filtering. It flattens the skin out. A lot of time when I think people work with food separation, when they're up close like this, it's great. Look, we have smooth skin and the texture is there as well. But when you zoom out, that's where the filtering is very, very noticeable because there's no variations in the skin. If I use some of my images that I use, they're a bit over sharpened for the internet use. You want to have small variations in the skin like this, and even here where less retouch was used. That's what makes skin look a bit more natural. So, or in here, you want to have those little transitions. But in here, in here, it looks great when you zoomed in because you see the skin texture, but it just looks blurry. Basically, there's no quick way of retouching. You have to take time. Other things that I can see is the hair needs to work. There's a lot of flyaway hairs throughout the image. Taken care of just to clean it up so it looks a bit more tidy. It's very oversaturated, doesn't need a lot of color grading. We have really desaturated spots in here. There's no painting. We have desaturated spots here and here. And there's a weird one here.
Yeah. These are usually where you have a lot of very translucent skin, so, and not a lot of blood accumulating, so around her hand. And as you mentioned, from where the lips going to the chin, there's probably been a vein. So the desaturation, like the texture has been blurred out, but the desaturation is still there and it's still darker, so you can still see it.
Yeah, same goes with very saturated spots. It's not consistent. It becomes very splotchy, and as a result, it throws off your eye because you start to concentrate that there's something wrong with the skin tone. Also, I don't know if it's a look. I don't know if the lip needs to be cleaned up when it's meant to be feathered out.
That's something I was wondering as well. I mean, if it's done purposefully, then you leave it. Otherwise, you definitely have to even it out.
Yeah. Also, there's something here, and I feel because of filtering, we lost the bone structure as well. Because she's frowning, there should be more skin texture in here. They should show that she's frowning, but it's kind of not moving. And this area, it has a lot of small patches. And again, liquify could be good. Not even liquify. I would selectively, not with dodge and burn. What could be done with dodge and burn? I guess I'm thinking brighten up some areas and darken some areas. Like the hands become really, really light. This area is really light. This is too dark. And liquify the eye because this one is much larger than this one. That's quickly looking at it. That's what I would say.
So let me share my screen with you again so you see what I'm actually doing. Okay, so what I would say is when you zoom out, obviously what you will see is again, you have a very bright hand. Oh, and the other hand as well. So what you could do to fix this is maybe, obviously we have a lot of saturation, so I would definitely maybe just take this down a little bit, and then on top of that we can use some curves and darken this down slightly and invert our mask, and then we are free to darken the hands down slightly.
It's good that you're showing how to do
Yeah.
that.
So in terms, I mean, that's very broad. So I'm just broadly demonstrating the concept, and also the shoulder could be toned down a little bit. So that makes a lot of difference. And then definitely what you said is like we're losing a lot of the structure here. So we still have these, when we zoom in, I can still see a lot of small texture like these, like here, but it doesn't necessarily help us in terms of the the shapes. So we could also go in and work on this transition and darken it down somewhere here and along the hair. So because what people do a lot is when they are starting to contour and stuff, especially on the nose, you will also see that is that you get a very broad, bright highlight, and there's no sparkles left. But when you look at the eye here, you have very small skin texture highlights in there, but all over the forehead it has been removed, and that's also part of what I don't like about when people are using frequency separation is they get rid of all the small micro contrast in the skin that actually should be there, and that's part of the skin doesn't look as reflective there anymore, so it looks more like leather. And when you're zooming out, you might have showed it as well. So along here we have these lines that still are left over from blurring some texture, and it still leaves other areas like this. And yeah, you would definitely focus on that and remove that. So yeah. And also what I find is you would also work on the don't make this such a big bright spot. You need some transitions the in the roundness of how the face looks. So it has to be bright here, and then it has to show a curvature again. So you can't just have a big bright spot here, which doesn't have any tonality change anymore. Actually, that could be a thing. So to apply it with makeup like this in green, that would look fun. But yeah, so that's what I would have to say in terms of this image. Yeah, and definitely way too much saturation. Obviously, we still have areas that need more desaturation, like for example, the area here needs to be desaturated. The area here needs to be desaturated even more. Here we have to add more saturation around the fingers. There are some areas that need desaturation. Here we are almost getting grayish, so we have to put more color in. So yeah, color consistency is a big thing here. And yeah, so let's go to number 6. That's from, who was it from? Chris Landy, or Landy, however it is pronounced. What would I say about this image? Let me have a quick look. I find it a little bit blotchy. So we have some blotchiness going here, there on the neck. There's a lot of rough, not necessarily texture, but I feel it has been blurred out a little bit. So it spreads, but it's more or less very little defined. So the whole neck needs to have some dodging and burning to even that out. Then I'm not sure how I feel about this crease on the neck. And then around the lip, we have these lines where it's, yeah, you have some color of the lipstick going into the actual skin tone around here, around on the top here, and there the line is not really precise. So you have to work on it, and yeah, otherwise it just looks like too messy. Even though maybe the bright and dark lipstick color is intentional, you definitely want to have it look like it's been applied purposefully. Then around the eyes, I feel like you have to fill in some hairs here. You have to get rid of some of the long hairs that stick out too much, like here. And then you have to dodge and burn the skin makeup. So we have some inconsistencies here, like around here, that's getting too dark and blotchy. Here you have to dodge. You have to work on this transition area here, and also on top here. On the other side, if I let me just quickly remove that. You have to do basically the same. If you're zooming out, you see some spots here in the makeup. You have to work on this transition area. Here you have to do some dodging and burning. And so what else? Yeah, again, a lot, like there's a big spot in terms of the forehead. I'm not sure. The lighting seems like really like a big light source. But then if you, give me a second, if you use some curves here and darken this down, you see there is, you should have some gradation left over here. For example, if we paint this in around that side slightly, you're gaining. Oh, I'm pressure sensitivity. That's not good. So yeah, if you paint in some here and work on the actual, that's been a bit much. Work on the actual transition here and not have it too broad. Also not on the nose. You want to maybe slim this down and work on the transition area. Well, speaking of the transition area, you definitely have to clean up the bridge of the nose and get rid of all the small hairs. What else? Yeah, hair cleanup. There's been some has been done, but you definitely can do a little bit better job. Also, remove these stray hairs all over here. Not necessarily all of them, but the very bright ones that stick out too much. Like on top here, some of these. Yeah, the ones that go along her face, you can remove these. Also here, the dark ones, you can remove these, the very bright ones on top here. And then you have also here on the edge, you just stop healing and cloning or painting over, with the background. That has to match a little better. So yeah, do you want to go next?
Yeah, pretty much again, you covered everything that is very important.
Yeah. So if you don't have to add anything, then go to the next image.
No, just
Okay.
couple words.
Sure.
I agree with everything you said about the hairs and doing a bit more work, but as you can see, there's doesn't seem to be any filtering done, so I actually rather prefer that way. And then this person retoucher to do a little bit more work here and then, and polishing the dodging and burning skills. I agree with you. A lot of the time, I notice when people do clean up the skin, they either forget to dodge and burn or clean up areas like of shadows, like underneath their neck, and eye makeup as well gets forgotten. Everything else gets done, but the eye makeup is left. Color grading again, I would do it slightly bit more relaxed. It doesn't need to be so strong because it oversaturates image. Especially around the ears and the cheeks. A little bit liquefy again, just to give the lip a bit more of a structured shape, and one eye is bigger than the other again, just to balance the image out. And yeah, just been more cleaning and practicing dodge burning, and I think the person will be on the right track.
Okay, so let's go to image number 7 then. By Jesus Alonso Rodriguez. Do you want to go first?
2 seconds. I haven't. You are so quick. Let me have a look. Okay. Yep. Sure. Let me have a look. Okay. So we're not trying to comment on images that much, but in this sense, I kind of have to. That looks like more like a portrait image, and if you're capturing a portrait of a person, you definitely want to do much less retouching because you want to capture the true essence of the person, and you don't want to retouch them. The glow around the person seems to be done in Photoshop because it bleeds into her hair and it affects the shadows and highlights to some extent. So do as much as you can beforehand because otherwise it kind of looks not real. And the quality of the image is not that good when you zoom in, but I can see, I think the makeup has been added and the eyes have been edited.
Yeah.
It doesn't really fit the purpose to have such strong reflective eyes. Every time you do certain changes in the image, ask yourself why I'm doing this, why is this added to the image. In here, it looks like a portrait, but the changes made to the eyes are more of like if they did some fantasy or
yeah, it looks a little
collage.
bit.
It doesn't really
I mean, we
fit.
also call them, no offense, we often call these alien eyes because it's not natural to have such bright reflective eyes, especially considering the pupil is like very big, so there was not a lot of light.
Yeah.
And yeah, what I can see is obviously we have this huge silhouette which is almost round and doesn't really frame the person well, and then you have a lot of blue in the shadows and yeah, very broad bright spots in the face with very little transitions, almost no, let's not say almost no eye, so no eye bags, no transition to there. Here on the left side there's a little bit, but that's too much for a portrait. You just want to keep it simple and refined. So I definitely, in terms of portrait work, maybe it is artistic, but most clients might not even appreciate that look.
Less is more for sure, especially for portraits.
Definitely.
Of course, a lot depends on your client and what they ask. But yeah, just questions of why you're doing those changes, why it's adding these images. gonna enhance the image, or is this image the right purpose for the changes that I'm making?
Okay, so let's go to image number 8. That has been submitted by Snezana Burgon. Okay. So what I can see, let me share my screen with you so you see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So what I can see is, give me a second. So we have, yeah, there's a lot of blurring going on. You can see it all. Sorry, you can see it all over the edges here, where it smooches everything together. Yeah, that's been just very, very rough. You can see where it stops, where it's ending. You can see weird edges. In terms of the skin, I think on the chest there has been some filtering going on because there's some weirdness. I could be wrong. The eyes, I don't know, something wrong, like blur. You have blurred whites in the eyes, I guess. It looks like that. And yeah, on the hand there's pretty much nothing done, but then here, down here, I can see there has been something applied. And again, you see all these weird shadows and leftovers here. So what I would suggest for that person is to learn how to heal and clone and make precise selections when you're starting to work on the background. So that on the hair doesn't need to be there. Then here we have some grizzy stuff where probably this person has tried to remove some hair. That's very obvious. There's a lot of artifacts going on. Yeah, you would start by cleaning up go over the whole image, not just work on the skin, work on the hair that is there. I can see a lot of leftovers here. You will have to add some in terms of the eyebrows and change all of that and get rid of the very, how would you say, these thicker parts of the eyelashes from, yeah, they need to be cleaned up as well. So yeah, that's what I would have to say to it. Also the nails, they look like this person has painted over it. So it's pretty much just almost one color on some of it. So especially here, down there, you still see some I don't know. There's also a lot of painting over it. So yeah, that's what I would have to say to that. The skin color, I think, is still quite natural, more or less. Yeah. Maybe going a little bit overboard with very heavy-handed on the hair. That could be refined.
Yeah. Pretty much the same stuff. I think just need to be a bit more careful with how the background gets cleaned up, and less filtering, and 2 seconds for me. Switch to Photoshop. Pretty much the same thing that you have pointed out, as I said, as the background, and not leaving all the smudges because, of course, it's visible, and the hair is sharpened really strongly. You can see from all that halo, and there's little bits and bobs and that needs to be done, and the hand looks, again, because I think it's sharpened, it looks more textured and dry as a result. And then we have some filtering going in here and here. Again, scale back and start slow, and don't go with filtering. Just do simple stuff. Go with the image. Or I would advise, if you're not sure what needs to be done, first when you open the image, sit down and create a blank layer and create notes and just circle everything that you think needs to be taken care of. Look at the image from zoomed in, from far away, and just have fun with it. You're learning, it's fine. You may not notice a lot of stuff, especially I found people tell me the color corrections are the most difficult to see, where it needs to be taken away or added. But you're probably sure you can even create a checklist. I used to have a checklist for my retouching because I do a lot of beauty. And for me, it would be something like background. Is it even? Check. Is there anything else distracting that needs to be removed? Yes or no? Eyes or the face. Is lip line clean? Are teeth clean? Is lipstick smudged or not? Of course, it depends if there's lipstick, say makeup, is a eyeliner that has melted, are the eyebrows needs to be added, have I checked the nails? Because sometimes you spend such a long time on an image, and especially if you're a beginner, you're not sure where you end up, you already spend like 3 hours on it, or 4 hours or 5 hours, how long you're sitting there, you end up not seeing, your brain kind of completely blocks out every other part that needs to be done and you don't even see it. So if you create a mind map or just a strategic plan of how you're gonna work on it, it will be easier for you to go like, oh, okay, I haven't done the nails and I haven't done this and this needs to be adjusted. This way you'll probably develop a habit and a plan of how to work more efficiently, and you'll go through your images quicker.
And also, it is very helpful to do that if you have a series of images, because every change you make, you have to carry over to all the other images of the series.
Yes, I've noticed where, and that still happens to me. You get tired, and you, as I said again, your brain gets so used to the image, you don't even see, like, you removed a freckle, not a freckle, but yeah, even a freckle, even a mole from this part, and then in other images it's there. So you have to make sure it's consistent.
True.
For the series.
Okay, shall we go to image number 9 then? Number 9 has been sent in by Calvin Law. Okay. So, do you want to go first?
Let me have a look. Let me show the screen.
So, that's the image.
Let me have a look. Okay. A couple of things that I see again. We have again image where it's very sharp in certain areas, and that actually brings the skin texture out, and we can see that around. Tap of that 2 seconds. You can see around the eye area it's too sharp, and as a result it makes it look more tired. It makes the area look really dry. We have filtering around the skin, which loses her bone structure. She loses her face shape, natural shadow that needs to be here. Even if she doesn't have really strong cheekbones, there still needs to be a bit more of a natural dip in her cheek, and colors blend together. And
we also have this big broad area underneath the eye that has very little transitions again.
Yeah. I'm not sure if the hair something.
Yeah, there has been something done, definitely.
Yeah, I think there's repetitive texture.
Yeah.
That I see. And then again, this problem where people remove hair and then they leave it. They remove whatever sticks out, but then they don't continue removing the rest of it. So becomes very obvious that it has been removed.
Or they give up because it's a lot of work. When you start cleaning up some areas in the hair, you have to clean up everything, and then you can't just do it in one area and then just leave it.
Yeah, and forget about it. That's why, again, checklist or creating notes for yourself is so good, because then you can check later if you covered all the areas that you have circled. Because we can see the hair was removed, but it's left in a branch. And as a result, it's obvious if someone sees it that the hair was there. Again, don't forget about the clothing. It's part of the image as well. All those bits and bobs needs to be cleaned out so it looks clean. Filtering again would be good on our skin because we have some bits that have been left out. We have some bits left on the back, but then the skin looks quite filtered. Also, think of certain objects that are in a frame, or maybe like this bra strap is not adding everything. Oh God.
Yeah.
This bra strap is not adding anything. You could remove it. Again, just ask yourself, would this add something or would it start take away from the image?
You could even argue if you remove the strap, which is definitely from a bra, or it looks like it has a little clamp on it, and then if you want to highlight this, the element that is covering the shoulder, you might even get rid of the where it's tied together and the thing that is going down here.
The tassels.
Yeah. So you could do that and only end up showing this piece of clothing or whatnot, and have it be the only thing that that you look at, because when you have this not only the strap but also on the back side, these laces or however you would call it, it takes away because you have dark parts against bright parts, and then all of a sudden they get very they grab your attention maybe, and you want to have the person look at the headpiece, the makeup, and also then look at what's covering the shoulder, and not get distracted by anything left and right of that.
Again, like the image needs to flow. Because the tassels or the brush will create like a bump when your images, when your eyes slide through the image and just look at everything. I would also color match the headpiece to the dress or vice versa, because the black on the headpiece and on the shoulder piece are different. So they feel detached, and the face is so bright again compared to the rest of the skin. And it could be no fault to his own. It could be just the lighting obviously is hitting her face, so it becomes brighter, but it's falling off the body, so it's darker. So I would match that. And
maybe let me add something then. Maybe let me share my screen, and then so what I would do definitely is, because I think the whole image has a magenta cast, which is I mean, it's a stylistic choice, but then I think it takes away of the flowers, because you could correct this and make the skin more natural. And then, as you said, there are some elements that could be brought out. For example, we could easily add some highlights in this piece on the shoulder. I mean, maybe not that much, but like to get more sense of the texture that's going on here, because if it's going too dark, we don't necessarily see what it is. And then also, you mentioned the face is very bright. To counter that, some areas could even be toned down, like the what is covering here, like this triangle underneath her eye on the cheek, that is very broad. But also you could add highlights to the flowers and that stuff in the headpiece, to counteract the brightness of the face. So if we do that and have more highlight here, it's fighting much less against the face. and it's becoming more of a, okay, we have the face, but we also have this interesting, these flowers, and then we go down to the face and down to this head thing, the shoulder pad, or however you would call it. And if you then go in and adjust with curves, and let's throw this down, and you would work on evening this out, so you can narrow this down and make it less pronounced, which also makes this face slimmer, because if you compare this and you had this very bright patch, so I'm just doing it very roughly, but just for people to get the idea. So we could take this down quite a bit, and then maybe do for the whole face, darken this down a little bit. So maybe more like this, and then it's all of a sudden it's much more even in terms of where you look, and you find the flowers more interesting instead of just looking at this. Give me a second. At this triangle that has been present before. So if I remove that again, then if we zoom out a little bit, then obviously the main thing is this area that we focus on. And if we reverse that, then it's becoming much more, okay, we have some brighter spots up here, then the face to look around, and then this has become much more interesting. And yeah, you have to clean up these small areas, like all the dust and dirt, or probably dust and skin particles that might be stuck in there. You have to take them all away. I definitely would agree getting rid of the strap. Then I'm not sure I would maybe get rid of that area, because it's taking away of, I mean, we have this shape here, and everything else here doesn't suit the image, because we have these patterns here, and this completely breaks the pattern. Then on top here, this might be, I mean, if you can get rid of it, you definitely might want to get rid of it. But then if it's too much work and you decide, okay, I'm fine with having some of it here, just leave it in. Maybe just take away this one and this one part. That would help tremendously. And yeah, so, and yeah, what I can see is definitely the hair. There has been some going on, and then it lacks here, it lacks the contrast. Again, you have to really clean it up and add the texture back in, paint over it. Then here it's completely messy, and down here it's probably very repetitive with these dark lines going down here. Yeah, I mean, if you're cleaning up this area that well, then there's the question, what are you doing with this area? What are you doing with this area where it's becoming, like here, it's becoming smudgy again? And then obviously you have to work on filling these gaps, because you can't have it like completely filled out and straight here, and don't add hair down here. You can't have that. So you have to fill all of that.
Ask the question yourself, like, does it actually need to be filled in?
Yeah.
Not everything always needs to be removed, even if it's a stretch. Even if the hair sometimes like flows and people end up completely removing some like flyweight hairs and removing it maybe adds to the movement onto the image, or it was a part of hairstyle. Not everything needs to be filled out. And another thing you mentioned, which I think is actually very, very powerful. A lot of the time we get so excited when it comes to trend and skin texture and skin cleaning, and it's all exciting. But I think those little changes that you've made with masks, like darkening parts of the images and marginal parts of it, and color corrections, and bringing certain parts out, they actually do, I feel, much more in bringing the image together. Skin cleaning and texture is one thing, it's important, of course, but I find my images become more alive at that part when I do color corrections and those little adjustments where I unify the image together.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go to number 10 then. Do you want to go first, or should now I probably go first?
You can go first.
I go first with this one. Okay, so let me share my screen with you. So looking at this image, I find it compared to the other image we looked at that had these magenta casts, I think overall this has a very yellow cast to it. So let me go into selective color and let me show, maybe let's go into the reds first. So I would add some magenta in the reds, very slight changes, and then go into the yellows, which I would desaturate here a little bit, get some magenta back in there, and some cyan slider in there. So that already makes it look a little bit better, but then it's a matter of managing the saturation. So I think it's very oversaturated on top of that. So let's go to vibrance and maybe take down the saturation for like 2 points and the vibrance for like 5, and that already cleans it up a little bit. Maybe that was a bit strong. And then we have, I mean, I want to show it on this image because we have this script that is gone because I updated Photoshop. Okay, so I'm not going to show the script. Let me quickly do something else. I won't explain it, but you can actually get a representation of the saturation, and we can manage this a little bit better, I think. So let me do this. So let's manage the areas of high saturation a little bit and take this down. And then obviously we don't want it as strong on the lips. Sorry, that was the wrong color. So, and now let's compare this to before and the changes I made. Sorry, that didn't include the... So that's before, and that's with my changes. And all of a sudden it looks a little bit more cleaned up and refined in terms of the skin texture, the skin color. Not as yellow again. And looks a little bit more fresher. So the other things I see in this image are, there's probably also been a lot of filtering, so I can see some leftovers of hairs down here, and then there's almost no texture in this area. Then we have a spot here that has no texture. The eyebrow has not been cleaned up. And then zooming out even more, we see some blotchy areas on the chin. Around here, we have some bigger blotches. Then we actually could work on some contrast. So, for example, we could take curves, pull the image down a little bit, and then slowly work on contouring the image. Like, for example, adding some around here, some around there. I also have to paint white because otherwise it doesn't make sense. And we can, again, focus where the highlights are so they become a little bit more pronounced, and also darken the hand down because it's becoming pretty much the focus of the image as bright as it is. And then we can also work on, like, you have to dodge and burn the hair to make it flow better. So we have this right line on top here, and it's good practice to be zoomed out that far so you can actually make judgments that are of value, and let you help finding the areas that you actually have to work on. So I would definitely darken down the forehead a little bit more, around here, the edge. And then you can go down here and contour these areas a little bit more. Again, always following the natural highlight structure that is already there. And then if you have done that, which is a very neat and nice way to add on top of that, is make a selection of the RGB channel and use this to add curves, and then you can have a selection of 50% and higher. Oh, I shouldn't maybe include the what I've painted. So again, you make the selection and then add curves. So that's the selection. If you alt click the mask, you see that, and then you can add levels to that and increase the contrast. So here, if we darken down the image, you see that there are some leftovers because you have blurred the skin texture but have not gotten rid of the actual issues of the transition areas and stuff. Again, that needs to be have some refining and dodging and burning. But if that was cleaned up, this would be a nice way to add some more highlights in there. So we can add the curves up here and pull out the highlights even more. And on the contrary, if we do the same selection and invert it and go onto curves, then the mask obviously looks inverted, and we can also use levels on that, put some more black into it, and then we go the other way around. So let's make it maybe like this. And there you can slightly darken the image. And maybe put it to, I don't know, luminosity. And so you can add more contrast into the very dark parts, because what I saw is when you're looking at the histogram, you have some space left here to work on the highlights, and also to tone the image down a little bit, and you have some more space in the shadows to again add some contrast here to make the face more pop, and then you can add some more highlights if you wanted to. And so that's what I definitely would do. And then obviously work on your dodging and burning to refine what you're doing. But then I think in terms of overall contrast, this is a neat way to get this image to have it more popping, and to have more of a fresh look, having very pronounced, like, small highlight detail and having more of a facial shape that is pronounced, because the original image, I mean, even if it the way it was sent in is a little bit flat. The color doesn't help, but then the changes we made, evening out the tones, and then we add on top of that and make it more pop, and then that would be something that is might be doing very well for even makeup brands, because again, the skin and how fresh it looks is very important to companies that sell makeup. And so do you want to add something to that?
I would. You basically again. You said pretty much everything that I want to cover, so I would rather address everything if you don't mind. This is our last image. I want to say well done for everyone for sending the images. I mean, it's kind of scary, especially when you're starting out. You know, there will be critiques, and you may not be there where you want to be, and it may seem scary. So I think everyone has done really well by sending the images. They should practice more, but kind of general advice I would give is definitely simplify. Go back to, working on the structure, working with healing and cloning and the burning and perfecting that. If you are struggling, create a mind map or notes for yourself of which places and areas you want to tackle. This will make sure you stay on track and do the whole image. You'll cover the whole image and you don't forget anything. You should save your time and develop your own retouching.
How's it called? It's a workflow you have to establish for yourself, so you can work consistently.
Yeah, this will save you time, and you will know what you will be doing. You know each image will start with certain workflow. For me, is raw processing, and then I call my first stage called prep, where I prep the image, which is cleaning, any compositing if it needs to be done. I'll do all this kind of stuff. There's dodger burning, and there's color correction, and then it's liquifying color grading. That's how my work flows. And each image starts the same way pretty much. And so you will speed up and you will make sure you cover all the areas that need to be covered in the image, and your work will be consistent. But definitely for everyone, just go back, less is more, and don't rush with filtering. There's a reason it doesn't work.
Yeah, but it's something you see a lot as people try to default to these techniques thinking they are time savers, but then what most people sacrifice for the time they might be saving is the quality. And if you practice the more basic techniques or more traditional techniques, you will be faster. And I always tend to say, if you work in frequency separation, pretty much almost everything that you change in terms of, let's say you define an issue you want to get rid of, you have to address this in both layers, in both texture and color layer, because otherwise you will still have leftovers of that issue, which remains in an image. And if you're not working in frequency separation, the same step might be just a one-step fix, whereas in frequency separation, it cannot be a one-step fix. It always has to be a two-step fix for the same issue. And that's why I don't like the idea of defaulting to something like frequency separation. There's a place for it, but it definitely shouldn't be your default way of doing it. And considering this, it cannot be a one-step solution for targeting an issue. It doesn't really make sense to me saying it saves you time. It's just, you think you will save time, but ultimately, if you are working to the same quality standards, it cannot save you time. It will always be, again, 2 steps to solve one, maybe a 1-step problem. So only in rare cases it really saves time. If you have to cover large areas which you cannot replace by a part of another image from the series, then it is invaluable, because you have to create something that looks somewhat believable where you don't have any material. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I have to
yeah,
say to it.
yeah. It's not a bad technique. It has its place in time. I love using it when it needs to take something away, or it isn't clothing, or had to replace something, and it helped me to tackle a problem separately, both in texture
Yeah.
and color, luminosity separately. So it definitely has its place in time um, to be used. Lost my train of thought. Don't remember what I want to say.
Well,
Um,
the train of thought was like, practice dodging and burning and proper healing and cloning. And yeah.
yeah, also look at good work. That's how you subconsciously will train your eye at understanding what looks good and what doesn't, and you will become better at knowing what to take away
Mm,
and what to leave, what looks natural, what doesn't. This way, it's very important. The more you look at images, more subconsciously you have like an image bank in your head
yeah.
of good examples. It's like with anything else people have done in their life, and not only with retouching, with makeup or probably any hobby they have done. Is you first start, you're a bit crappy, you're not really sure when to stop, when it's too much,
Yeah.
but over time, the more you practice and the more you look at other work, the better you become. You know when to stop, when it's too much,
Definitely.
or what looks good. It's the same with kind of clothing. You know how people look at their images from 10 years ago and they sometimes cringe and say, oh, what the hell was I wearing? What was I thinking when I had a black eyeliner all over my eyes? You think it's again because you developed. So
True.
looking at
Yeah.
images will help you develop in the
And
same
again,
way and become better.
on top of that, it makes sense if you are into beauty to look at like beauty magazines, what beauty companies, or let's not say beauty companies, but companies that are selling in the beauty sector, like makeup brands and stuff, what they are showcasing as commercial work on their websites and on to showcase their products. So that gives you a reference of what currently is considered the standard, and what, if you are, I mean, as a goal, as a beauty retoucher, you aim to work for the companies selling these products, so they will demand certain standards. And to get an idea of that and to train towards that, you have to look at what are they publishing, what are they showcasing, what are they using to promote their images. And yeah, it gives you a feel. It's like, okay, where am I lacking? Do I like the eyebrows, how I retouch them? Is that to the standards? Like how they showcase their stuff, and also like how fresh the skin looks, how yeah, the makeup is applied and stuff like this. And you also pick up trends. So for example, sometimes you have like these weird trends in the beauty industry that, for example, me, I wouldn't know if I was not looking at beauty images all the time. It's like you have phases where
Yeah.
you, like really odd things going on, where people get creative and then it becomes a thing and people pick it up. So you have to know all of these instead of like, otherwise you might get rid of something that is something that was done purposefully. You have to know all of that. And the same goes for like if you work in portraiture, or if you work on like more fashion, you have to kind of find your way of, yeah, what they're working with. So in fashion, it's much more a matter of what color is currently trending, what, I don't know, how you maybe as a in the commercial world, so in graphics design, they have certain color palettes that are using, and how you can separate your image and apply certain color themes, and yeah, make it look and style it more differently than you would style beauty work. So it makes a lot of sense if you're in fashion, also look in graphic design work that people are doing, because yeah, the fashion stylists work in the same way, and also not only the stylists but also the designers. They work basically have a more or less design background, so you have to tap into that for yourself as a retoucher to be proficient in providing such work.
Yeah, for sure. And just, yeah, don't be afraid. Keep trying and practicing. I mean, when I started retouching, I used separation as well because I saw how it makes transitions, and I was like, okay, that's the answer. That's the answer to clean and beautiful skin. And I kept doing it, and I was like, something looks wrong, something looks, until I realized it was all in that burn. So don't worry, just keep practicing, and that's how you will get it. Unfortunately, you have to put in the work in order to get better.
All right. Okay. So that's been our first round of critique. Actually, we spent more time than we thought we would. So this has been almost 2 hours now for 10 images. Yeah. But then we will inform everyone who is who has been critiqued, and also everyone who has submitted images. And then, yeah, we will go on, do another one, someone in the future.
Maybe we could, since you will be messaging them, provide our either social media or emails. They can reach out if they have further question or something, because we couldn't spend that much time on the images, and we had to fairly quickly gloss over. If they have any further question, they can reach out so we can explain better what we meant. And yeah, and if there's anything else they would like to see in the future that we could be better and more efficient, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, also definitely feedback is appreciated. So that's been the first time we've been doing it. Again, we try to pick out the most obvious things based on the retouch that has been done. There are different ways of going over it. Some people prefer to see the original, but then I like the idea of looking at the retouch version and picking out what could be improved and what is very noticeable in terms of their retouching. Because when you look at the before image, you will always see many more things that have been changed.
True.
But then as a retoucher, if not everyone is noticing a change, you might have done a good job. So we're not also not trying to pick out flaws in your retouching to put you down or anything. So we want to provide us, okay, this is still very noticeable, and those are the things that if you practice, you could improve the most on. So that's why we're picking out, okay, this has been the retouch version, and this could be improved, and this could be improved. So we're picking out the flaws basically in the retouching, so you can focus on what will bring you to the next level of retouching if you put in the time.
Sure.
Okay, so yeah, that's been it. I have to thank you for spending the time with me. Also, where can people find you? So let us know your website, because I never know. Or your social media. Instagram is a big thing, I heard.
Well, yeah. I only been updated like 4 years ago. I'm really bad. I really need to update my portfolio.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can find me at nataliafortouching.com. That's my website. And it's the same for social media. It's Natalia for Touching. It's NATLYF Retouching. Yeah, if you have any questions or I can help you somehow, please message me. It may take me a while to reply. So don't be afraid to be persistent, because I get busy, but I usually reply for if anyone is asked for help.
That's fine. On the other hand, we also have the group. So if you have issues, if you want to share with other people, they can also go to the Facebook group and share images there. I'm not always responding to what's posted there, but then there are other people who can comment yeah, to your work. And if you need advice with something, that's a good place to ask there as well. And yeah, we will do another critique round somewhere in the future. See when that happens. Hopefully not, I don't know, in a year or something. So maybe a little bit earlier.
I don't
Um,
know.
yeah, we'll see if you can join that. That would be great. And yeah, so let's end the live stream. Also, again, you will find the high-end retouching group for boutique retouching on Facebook. We have a YouTube channel. You can always go to boutiqueretouching.com, which is the site of our retouching studio. Our podcast is going to be published there and also on the podcasting platforms. So there's always something to learn. And oh, by the way, you are going to be up next for the next podcast episode that's coming out. So we did an interview with
Damn
you,
it.
which has been a while ago, but yeah, I'm currently catching up with all of these tasks, and you will be the next interview to publish. So yeah,
You
look out
sure
for
do you
that.
want to refilm it?
What? No, we're not going to redo it.
Okay.
Okay, so everyone who was
Okay.
watching, have a nice day over
Thank
there
you.
and happy retouching.
Bye.
Bye.